Why are you laughing?
Today has been a long day, y'all. Me and Andre have been talking for over 30 minutes on various topics inappropriate for the air. And I am...
Before we decided to press record, finally.
I'm a few drinks into water, of course. Also Chardonnay.
You gotta stay hydrated. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little drunk today, so I think it'll be a fun episode. I'm really looking forward to it. Shout out to our non-sponsors today. Bailarin, which is from Manchester Ridge Vineyard. Mendocino Ridge, that's a 2018 Chardonnay. And Mike's Hard Lemonade, because how can you go wrong? So...
yeah, also, I'm not drunk. This is just how I always sound. But Sunny is, and so we'll go with that. Also, Scary Talk does not condone underage drinking, because as we all know, Sunny is 12, but... Anyway,
yes, spoiler alert, I am of age, so don't worry.
Yeah. Hi all. Welcome to this week's episode of Scary Talk. We have the spooks for you today. This what we're talking about today is super duper interesting. I think we're gonna get into it in a minute. We'll let you know what it is. Be prepared for it. But first, how are you, Sunny, in the in the acceptable for air way? How are you doing?
Well, as you know, I'm a little sick. But overall, I'm doing well.
Not Rona.
Not Rona, and not STDs, which, like, honestly are the same thing. Like, have you gotten tested? Yeah. Have you told everyone you've contacted about it? The parallels are actually kind of wild. Like, if you do get it, there's a lot of shame put on you for getting it. I would say more...
Can't fuck people for a while.
I mean, you know, a lot of good parallels there. Luckily, not infected with either. In terms of how I'm doing, I've got a lot of thoughts about today's episode. I'm really excited. I have a lot of thoughts on, like, sound, what sound even is, why it is that mysterious sounds creep us out extra. And, yeah, how else am I doing? You know, I'm energized. I've been watching a lot of Trisha Paytas recently, which I know is, like, we haven't even discussed this. It's, like, bad news. Don't sponsor her. She's very problematic. But she's been doing this Frenemies podcast with Ethan from H3H3 Productions, who's also problematic. He's made, like, terrible videos about how, like, cultural appropriation is just, like, people overreacting. And it's so funny because he calls her out, but I'm also, like, don't act like you're on a high horse. They have this wonderful dynamic where they're, like, siblings who hate each other, but also talk just very passive aggressively with one another.
They're so entertaining. I've seen the Frenemies podcast.
Yes,
yeah.
I actually love it. I can't stop watching. It's like watching a train wreck, but in a good way where I'm also low-key invested and want them to, like, remain good friends.
Trisha's quit the show like 10 times
already. I know.
There's 10 episodes.
No,
so.
Right? I just watched number 14 and it's like, okay, I guess. And it's 2 hours long and it's like, you guys are insane. You're literally fucking insane.
What is insane is, like, that they got together at all to begin with because they hated each other because she started to date Ethan's, like brother-in-law. It was, like, when Ethan didn't want that to happen.
Yes!
It's insane.
And literally, I watched the old podcast from when she had come on from a year ago, and she literally just came on because he hated her. And they talked, and now they're, like, talking because they're family members, where she's dating his brother-in-law. And that is so funny to me. They're like, no, so now they're family because she's dating his brother-in-law. And it's so funny because they're talking on air and they're like, yeah, so Rosh Hashanah, the food was shit, right? And then you're like, oh my god, you guys ate Rosh Hashanah together. That's insane. Like, you're telling me you see each other at family outings and then you do this podcast where you dress up like ridiculous. They have these costumes for the month
Sunny,
of October.
Don't you know? I mean, Trisha is Jewish now. She can't stop talking about it on her channel. I mean, aside from obviously being trans, gay, having that one personality disorder, she's also a chicken nugget. She's also half black, if you remember. I believe she's also a lesbian. And she also said she's a drag king. So
you're so right. You, like, are more updated on her past than I am. Because the Frenemies podcast is, like, my main exposure. I haven't gone that far back. But I don't know. The thing with Trisha is I feel she talks so quickly. If I talk more quickly during this podcast, you will now know why. It is Trisha's influence. But she talks insanely fast. It looks like she's either having a manic episode or she's just straight up ADHD. That sounds so offensive, but one of the two has to be true, literally. And
I think so.
I say this with an ADHD mother who's now passed away. And a bipolar aunt who's still alive. So the thing is, she I just feel kind of bad for her because I can tell she seems really sharp. You literally can't talk that fast unless you have thoughts that fast, right? Which I don't think anyone gives her credit for. Her mind, period, is going. It's going at 1,000 miles a minute, and she has like thoughts and stuff. She's just not well educated. I don't know if she's had more than like a high school diploma. So when she tries to talk about Jewish issues, she sounds like an ignorant idiot, which she probably is. And I don't know more about like how problematic she's been. I'm sure she's been terrible, but
well, okay. So yeah, she's problematic. The talking fast thing, though, I don't know if you know this, Sunny. I'm about to blow your mind, but in 2010, Trisha was like an audience member that Ellen called upon, and she was on the Ellen show talking fast. Like she was like, it was like a what's the audience's talents segment, and she was like called upon, and her was like, my talent is talking fast. And she just read Ellen's book for 30 seconds, like super duper fast.
Shut up.
Also, no, in 2012, Trisha went on America's Got Talent in front of Simon Cowell and the other judges. And she said, my talent is talking fast.
Wait. Was she that contestant who hugged Howie and he was like, hell yeah, she had
Trish like fish.
Oh my god. Yeah. Oh my god, I forgot about that. Whoa, that's just
she announced herself as Trish like fish.
In my mind right now. Whoa. And how did she maintain relevance over like 10 years? That's actually insane. That's actually pretty insane. Yeah. Whoa. That's blowing my mind.
I know. Crazy.
But yeah, honestly, Frenemies podcast, really fun. Kind of like me and Andre if we actually hated each other.
Yeah, don't.
Honestly, I'm actually very grateful we don't have a dynamic like the Frenemies podcast. But really, really fun, and that's kind of what I've been up to. But now that we're 7 minutes in, how have you been, Andre?
It's fine, don't worry. I don't have a lot of updates. I am fine. I have been binging The Crown though, and I have to talk about it. It is such a good show. I only started watching it because I saw that my mom was watching it like nonstop a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, you know what? I decided to watch The Queen's Gambit recently, which is probably the best Netflix show I've ever seen.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm kind of in love with Anya Taylor-Joy. Like if
totally recommend it. Yeah,
she's like one of those people where it's like if she wanted to date, I would marry and be on the spot.
I am a gold star gay, and I think she's beautiful. Like, I think if I were straight, I would date her.
Yes.
I like her face. I know people like give her shit for her eyes that are too far apart. Listen, it's fine. My eyes are not, and so if we have kids, they'll be fine.
We've all noticed it, right? But I think it actually gives her a distinctive trait that allows her to stick out in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Because anyone can have a picture-perfect face where they've gotten the plastic surgery and the Botox to have the perfect jawline, the perfectly skinny nose, and the big lips, and the well-angled eyes.
Stop talking about me, Sunny.
Because their eyebrow lift. Shut up! You know you haven't had to have any of these procedures. But
I know. I just look.
I follow enough Instagram accounts to know exactly what the procedures are. And, well, that just sounds shitty. Not to say Anya Taylor-Joy is, like, perfect. I mean, maybe she has, maybe she hasn't. But I like that she has, like, a distinctive face. I think that's sick. And, I think it's fine to celebrate her beauty, wide eye width included. So,
yeah. I think it actually gives her this kind of, like, alien-like, doe look. I mean...
Exactly,
like,
and she utilized it so well in her roles. But, yeah.
Yeah, like, I know this is so corny, but, like... I think there is good in seeing beauty as diverse instead of monolithic.
Yeah,
I think there's absolute good in that.
Yeah, seriously.
First off, there's the good of not making 90% of the population feel like shit because they wouldn't be deemed beautiful under the monolithic standard. And second, just like, if you can be a part of that, you just feel good about yourself, and people feel good about yourself. You have a better society and less wars. And I just solved all of the world's crisis by saying everyone is beautiful in their own way.
Literally.
And listen, now I'm gonna get corny cubed, but like to the third power, but like. I find myself attractive. I mean, obviously because I'm a hot, skinny bimbo, but beyond that, just as myself, before all of the procedures that I've had, I find myself attractive. And here's why this is important, because I didn't always think of myself as that, and I know that's hard to believe because I am so beautiful, but I used to not. I can't. Okay.
This is destroying.
No, listen. Listen, I mean, yeah, like we all have self-esteem issues. Like I'm just a normal human being, obviously. Like I'm in that pool, um, but like they've gotten way better, and I'm saying they've gotten way better as time has gone on, and I've started to see beauty as a different thing, and really that's kind of the only way you can go about life, because otherwise you just kind of fucking hate yourself.
No,
So that's the
exactly.
key.
And I love that. And you know what? As someone where we bullied my eye shape in high school. Wait, this is actually really funny. Me and Andre. I can't even say this. Holy shit. We have a photo from high school where together we were poking.
Oh my god, no. I'm getting canceled. I'm getting canceled right now.
No, I'm getting canceled.
Sunny, you stop that.
Okay, it was initiated by both of us. I'm half Korean, and we did this thing where we made fun of Asian eyes, and we said like Japanesey eyes, which is ironic because technically Japanese people make fun of Koreans more than Koreans do the other way around. Like when you look at like the world hierarchy or whatever, it's like Japanese people are the colonizers. But in that moment, we were like, yeah, Japanese people, you suck. And we said like, oh, Japanesey eyes, and we made this like joke. Which I didn't even think about at the time, because at the time we were not yet. I mean, we were from a small rural town. People can cancel us if they want to, but like
it was also 2014.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, literally.
It's like a different time, a different space, a different era. We were in high school. We had a lot to learn. But all that said, we did that, which is really funny, and well, really funny among other things. I guess problematic too. And honestly, I'm also happy with my appearance, and that's the main point. I'm just really happy that we're both able to come to a point of being happy with it, and I feel very lucky to have grown up with my mom, who always told me that I was beautiful, even at points where I wasn't, where I had a rolling backpack, which I think pretty much just like precludes beauty. And
yeah, even those 3 months in junior year, that man, you were looking like a train wreck. But I'm glad your mom told you were beautiful.
No, exactly, and she really did, and she stanned me when no one else would, and that I think had a big difference. And you know, on top of having my ex compliment my nudes, but we'll leave that to the side. But no, I feel very beautiful. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I just agree. I think the U.S. has fucked up culture in a lot of ways. This is a rant I could totally go on that I'll leave for another time. We really suck. We don't do a very good job of like endorsing any kind of values, because we live in this like post-liberal fucked up society. But the one thing that we're good about is embracing different types of beauty. And you'll look at like the classic example for me is East Asia, because I spent a lot of time there now, having studied there and being half Korean. Although, I mean, you could argue about how much I really know the culture, and that's fine. But the standard of
South Korea,
standard.
Plastic
I mean,
surgery.
Exactly. The standard of beauty is you get plastic surgery to look like the people that you want to look like, and then everyone who's beautiful starts to kind of look similar. And I think that one of the coolest things the U.S. has. Yes.
I used to be obsessed with videos about that, like some years back, about South Korean plastic surgery.
Literally.
And how people who had like crazy jawlines, for example, would get them shaved down to look like tiny, doll-like aliens, and I was like, that's fucking insane.
No, exactly. And it's insane because I went to Japan, I studied abroad in Japan, and honestly, I think I was evaluated as being way hotter there just because I had like double eyelids and like whiter features, because I'm half Korean and half white, right? Which was cool, but I was also like, y'all are really selling yourself short because you're way hotter than me, first of all. And, like, there's no reason to just let these colonialist influences affect you to the point of thinking that, like, anyone who's slightly white is hotter. I see, like, white boys getting mad pussy over there who are gross. Like, gross white boys.
I know.
And it's like, they don't deserve it. No, seriously. So, all that
the effects of colonialism are affecting us centuries later.
Okay, that's the thing, is people in the U.S. don't realize, because we just live here. But you go to any other country, and it's so affected by the U.S. Especially, like, having spent time in Hong Kong and Japan, it's like, you meet anyone, and they're aware of, like, how white people look, and how they think that white people might be more attractive, or, like, have more, quote-unquote, three-dimensional faces, because they have deeper set eyes, and bigger noses, and, like, how their roads and the clothing that they wear is affected by Western culture, and you don't think about any of that when you're living in the U.S., growing up in the U.S., at least for me. But, you know, the U.S. has affected the whole world, whether or not it's meant to. And despite all of that, you have, you know, millions and millions of citizens who can't even speak another language, which is just shameful. Absolutely shame on the U.S. for having a shitty education system and
And it goes back even further back than the U.S. Like it goes back to the times of like the British Empire being like this far larger
and colonizing India, which we saw a little bit in last week's episode.
Like you look at that, and then you look at the fact that like India hasn't been independent for that long in the grand scheme of things, and then you look at the fact that India is like the highest user country of skin whitening creams, and you can't help but see a correlation in that.
No, seriously, it's like long-lasting effects.
I know, like people over there dead ass like bleach their skin with like this. Oh my god, what's it called? Quinone? Something like it's a terrible chemical that like weakens your skin barrier over time, so you have really thin skin by the time you're pale white. And they do it because it basically kind of aggregates this
like cultural
portion of social class to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad, and it's so sad, and I definitely saw that when I don't know if the listeners know this, but I used to live in Mexico, and there was a lot of American influence on like media, and well, there was a lot of American media, I should say, that was imported into Mexico, and you would see a lot of people consuming this, and then you would see them trying to emulate the way people looked in that media, like basically the same shit. I don't know that I ever like really heard about skin whitening creams until I like learned about India, but basically anything below that, you had it. Like and so it's all like people like blue contact lenses, bleaching your hair, the clothing you wore, like it's just it's like
all oriented towards trying to look whiter.
It's just it's sad. It makes me sad, not like in a pitiful way, but like it makes me sad. Because it's like, shit, that sucks.
Exactly, because these things have come to represent wealth and like social class, and it's so unfair and detrimental to like the inherent culture of other places. It really sucks.
It's crazy, and it's crazy that like in the U.S. People like actually tan.
No, literally, and then in the U.S. people are like, well, that's not real because I want a tan. It's like, yo,
I know.
You just don't understand.
It's so funny. Like in East Asia, people are trying to be paper white, and in the U.S., it's like, oh no, if you look like you took a trip in the sun, then you're wealthy because that means you have money to go travel, and so you have to look tan.
Oh my god, and I mean, East Asian culture has its own history in terms of trying to look white so that it doesn't look like you've been in the fields and binding feet and stuff that to be fair, I think is like less related to colonialism, at least to my knowledge. I mean, for all I know, that stuff has colonial roots too.
No, that's true. That was a thing in like ancient China, for sure.
So I think that there's like unrelated stuff that relates to it, but at the end of the day, it really does connect these days to like this insane like cultural inferiority complex. I especially felt that in Japan, where it was like, you know, after World War II, Japan got fucked by the U.S. We went to Japan and we said, we're going to censor your shit. We're going to take over for 5 years from 1950 to 1955 and just censor whatever we feel like. We're going to install your next prime minister and you're going to have nothing to say about it. And I mean, I'm not going to feel sorry for Japan because Japan fucked over the rest of Asia too, right? Japan was a colonizer. Sexual slavery in Korea and in China and in the Philippines, like, literally Japan has nothing to say for themselves, but Japan then got fucked over by the US, and now there's this like decades-long inferiority complex that you can still feel, and it's just wild. It's like, whoa, history really do be having an effect on the consciousness of every single person living today, like.
Right.
I can't believe this is literally blowing my.
No, it's fine. listen. It's fine. We're about to finish, but I do want to make a final point. Like going back to what I was talking about in Mexico, like something else that you see a lot. And listen, people can say whatever they want, and you can burn me, and you can call me out, but I know that I'm right. Something else is that, like. Racism in Mexico is a thing, and a lot of people don't know about this because they're all Mexicans. It's a monolithic culture, and like
literally, and they're like, well, Mexican. Latinos are minorities, so they can't be racist. I think a lot of Asians are racist too. I don't know.
Right, but like, I mean, within the country of Mexico, though, right? Like, it's a whole other conversation whether like Latinos in foreign countries can be racist. Like that's a whole other conversation, whatever. But like I'm talking about Mexicans in Mexico, like trying to say. But the point is that like people in Mexico are racist towards people that are darker, and it's sad because those people happen to be the indigenous communities that have been there for a long time, and we disrespect them and we treat them so poorly, and a lot of them are under the poverty line.
Yeah, and I don't think native populations are recognized enough in like Central and Southern America. But yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like we do a disservice to ourselves when we do that. The Mexican in me is like that. That's what I mean. Because these people represent this kind of like lineage of ancestors that have for the most part been untouched, right? Like these people have kept the same like their lineage has the same facial features as like they're from like Aztec or Mayan descent or stuff like that, and it's just sad the way we treat them, because at the same time a lot of mixed Mexicans like myself talk about, oh, we are so proud of our heritage and we are proud Mexicans, and it's like, well, the people who are the Mexicanest, for lack of a better word, you treat them like shit, and you're racist towards them because they're browner than you are, and I think that's a load of shit.
It is tough. I've heard that a lot with Brazil. As like a mixed race person, people always talk about how mixing the races is going to solve racism, and then people will bring up, well, look at Brazil where everyone is mixed and there's still so much colorism around like who's darkest versus who's lightest, and the lightest people win out. So I mean, it sounds similar, where it's like, sure, you can like mix everyone and talk about that, but you'll still find some gradient to discriminate on.
Colonialism's got us fucked for days, dude.
It really
We could all be fucking purple, and we'd be like, well, but you're a little more violet than purple. You know?
And don't you think violet's just like a prettier color naturally? Wouldn't you just say that that's like a more aesthetic color? So like, I mean, you can't help if you discriminate a little bit over that, right? Literally, some of the reasonings here, it's people just being like, well, don't you think whiter people are just like a little better looking? Like, what? I literally heard a Korean American person talk about this, and I think it was because of his own inferiority complex. I don't think he meant harm by it, but he was like, well, whiter people are just hotter, so like, of course I'm less attractive. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that is such internalized, like deep
internalized colonialism. Precisely.
Like,
yeah.
And it felt so shitty to hear from him, because it was like, oh, dude, like, you could be mad hot. You could get mad bitches if you just got over this colonialist.
If you just shut the fuck up,
inferiority complex that you have right now.
It's crazy because that's what it is. Like, and the thing is, like, he probably wasn't being malicious at all. Like, he probably legitimately believed in what he was saying. But the problem is that he only believes that because of this toxic influence that his brain has.
No,
and it's so
exactly.
sad.
And it's like, also, let's say that you really are in conflict. You're like, I don't know, maybe white people could be hotter, maybe Asian people could be hotter, like whatever. If you're in conflict, just choose the one that helps you more. You know what I mean? Like, at that point, just say, you know what?
If it really is 50-50.
No, exactly. Then just say, you know what? I'm Korean, so I'm just going to say Korean people are like really hot, and I'm just going to go for it and believe that. Kind of like what you mentioned, like at some point, you just have to like support your own appearance and say, I'm hot, and people have to deal with that, And I mean, that's all you can do, living the way we live.
It's crazy. And you want to hear something funny? It's funny to me that like it was actually my very much white boyfriend that helped me a lot with my self-acceptance. And I know that's like, oh, now we're corny to the fourth power, but it's true. And thank you, baby, if you're listening.
Aw, that's so cute. You know what? My white ex-boyfriend helped me believe in the sexiness of my body a lot. He sexualized me a lot. So thank you.
Hey, listen,
he wasn't out here to call me beautiful, but he was out here to call me sexy, and I'll take it. So thank you if you're listening.
So anyway.
Oh my god. I don't think he ever listens, but if he did, that would be insane. Okay.
So anyway, hi, welcome to episode 88. Today we're talking about mysterious sounds, and we're going to get started right now.
Holy. I'm going to pee
myself. I'm sure some of this is going to get cut out. I'm sure some of this is going to get cut out by Afraid to Get Cancelled Andre in post-production. No. So no, for real. We're talking about mysterious sounds. I believe this was listener requested. So thank you to whoever requested it. Again, I can't. I don't have the receipts with me, but I'm pretty sure it was. And when I yeah, and a couple of the topics that we've covered are for sure. So once I looked into this, I definitely wanted to pick it up, and Sunny was on board. So here we are. It's super interesting what I found. There's not really like any background to give on mysterious sounds. They really are just what they sound.
You know what though? I do have some pretty sick thoughts, if not background.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Thoughts not as in horrors, as in actual thoughts coming from my mind into your mind via this podcast. So, mysterious sounds. I took a poetry class once. This seems like a tangent, but it's very relevant. And I had a professor who was descended from a really famous Greek poet, because that's exactly how professions seem to work these days. You go to an Ivy League university and you're like, I'm not talking to Julia Roberts, but I'm talking to her granddaughter who has to be a great actor because it's Julia Roberts' granddaughter. So it's the same type of idea where it was like, it's this Greek woman, she's the granddaughter of a really famous Greek poet, and now she's out here teaching poetry, because why not just follow in your ancestors' footsteps mindlessly, right? That was a tangent. That wasn't relevant. But we talked about poetry, and she said, let's talk about poetry and what it is, and why it's different from plain written text. Because up until then, I'd just done plain fiction stuff. And she was like, the difference is that it's spoken too, right? When we think about poetry, we think about what does it mean for something to be spoken rather than written. And I actually think I gained so much from that discussion, because this is a Tumblr post that I'm going to quote here, but there's a really fun Tumblr post, and it says, if visual art is how we decorate space, music is how we decorate time. So I'll leave that out there for a second. Yeah. So the thing is, when you have something visual, like a book, you have it there in place, in front of you, and you can look at it and refer to it, right? It's physical, it's tangible. When you have something spoken, something that you hear it once, and then it's gone, right? So there's something a lot more mysterious and spooky and ethereal to that, because you don't have it there for reference. You hear it once, and then it's gone. It's a decoration of time, right? And time passes, and you don't have repeated access to that. So right now we're talking about unexplained sounds for this episode, and I just think that's awesome. Thank you to whoever requested this, because unexplained sounds is very spooky, right? Instead of unexplained texts or unexplained artifacts or whatever it is, unexplained sounds, you hear them and then they're gone. And now, of course, we're lucky to have audio, so we will be able to play some of these sounds for you, which is sick, and like record them, which it makes it a little less ethereal. But it's a really cool sort of different quality to it, and I think that there's something very spooky about hearing a sound that has that deep of an effect on you, because it passes so quickly and then it's gone. And that is that's my background thoughts for the episode. That was a little rant, but you know.
No, that was very philosophical. Thank you. I was gonna say, what you were just talking about made me think about, like, oh my god, like, what if in order to make this podcast like a lost podcast, like years from now, or something like a mysterious, like, what if when we end the podcast we take down all the audio from the internet, we take it off the internet, and so only people who like downloaded the episodes like will ever, you know, and ourselves will ever have this audio, and anyone else will not be able to find it on the internet anymore.
I love
it'll
that.
Be like one of those Reddit like lost episodes of what a TV show or something.
And then people
like,
just have to talk about like what they remember, right? And you get like oral histories, and like things start to change over time. Yeah, that's really cool in its
like
own
50
way.
Years from now.
Yeah,
50 years from now, people will be like, oh yeah, in the 2020s there was this podcast.
Well, I mean, like, if anyone actually cares enough to talk about our podcast.
I know, but like assuming that that's what happens, right? That would be so funny.
Yeah, that's so true. Also, I'm gonna be real. Along the theme of Sunny being drunk, I have to go pee, so I'll be right back. I'm sure we'll edit.
Oh, that's fine.
This out. I'll be back.
No, we won't.
Okay. Okay, I'm back.
And that's why Sunny is the perfect co-host.
Yes, all the aforementioned reasons that I'm sure you heard plenty about make me the absolute ideal co-host. I do what I can, you know.
I know reason number 3 was weird, everyone, with the whole thing about the boobs, but it's true. So anyway, So we were talking about mysterious sounds. So, Sunny, I want you to start. What kind of mysterious sound do you have?
I have many a mysterious sound. One of the first that I researched is a very cool one that involves, out of all things, nuclear warfare. So this one is called UVB-76, also known as the buzzer. It's a shortwave radio station, and every 1 minute, if you go onto the shortwave radio, you can hear it transmit a buzzing sound, which I'm sure we'll play. We'll insert it like here. Anyways,
Yeah.
technically it's owned by the Russian armed forces and it's broadcast out of Moscow, but no specific Russian officials have ever taken claim for it. So there's a lot of theories around who's actually taking the time to every 1 minute transmit a buzzing sound, right? Who has that kind of time on their hands? Who's being paid to do that? What is the purpose of this?
It's really creepy too. Like I think I heard that years ago.
Yeah.
Like a creepypasta about it or something. Like this radio station that keeps just saying numbers and shit and like yeah.
Exactly. It's very much like who's doing this and why. It gives you like kind of chills when you're like, there's just this constant sound of static. So no one has admitted to staffing the radio station, but one of the big theories as to what it is that it's a dead hand signal. So I had to look this up, but the dead hand is a computer system, and the idea is that if it detected that there was no chain of command among the Soviet Union military, now it would be the Russian military, but this was set up in the 80s, then it would deploy all of the Soviet Union's nuclear weapons to go off. So it was sort of like a last-minute thing of like, oh, hey, the U.S. has killed all of our military officials, so what we're going to do is respond and deploy all of our military shit. So the dead hand is sort of a last response around nuclear warfare, and the biggest theories around UVB-76 are that it's a dead hand, and if for some reason it's not able to broadcast or detects there's something wrong, then it'll trigger a nuclear response from Russia now. So pretty wild one.
So what do you hear when you tune into this radio station? And also, can mere mortals like ourselves just tune into it on AM FM radio, or do you need?
You
something
should be able to. From what I've read, it's just a regular shortwave radio station. I mean, considering it's shortwave, I don't actually know if it's accessible if you're very far from Russia.
I'm testing your ham radio
I know.
background.
Okay, here's the funny thing. Me and Andre met in a couple of high school clubs, one of them being Ham Radio Club, which I'm pretty sure neither of us did for any reason other than college applications, because literally why else would you do the Ham Radio Club? There's no reason. I was like, hey, check me out. I'm a quirky girl who does the Ham Radio Club, because no other girl in her right mind would do this club.
I mean, listen, there was also that one guy in there that I liked, but beyond that I thought was
Ham
gay.
Radio Club? Who did you like?
Hello, Sunny.
Wait.
If you recall, there was this person in Ham Radio Club. Either he was in Ham Radio Club, which I'm pretty sure he was, or at least he visited once. Maybe I'm recalling this wrong. But yeah. I thought the person was.
Wait,
gay. I was like
does his
and
name
then
start with an E?
No, it starts with an A.
Oh, wait a second. Does it start with an?
I'll refresh your memory after the podcast.
Okay. Wow, I'm actually freaking out. Okay, we'll definitely check in on that. But no, so we both did ham radio. So what you hear is like a really weird buzzing sound. And you hear the buzzing sound and then silence for a minute. And then the buzzing sound comes in out of nowhere again for a few seconds. And then it goes off and it's off for a minute. And then it comes in again. So it's just this really weird buzzing sound that comes in every minute precisely. But yes, that is the UVB-76. Wish I could tell you what exactly it's doing. I'm curious for sure about whether it's some kind of nuclear weapon thing, but I feel like if it were a nuclear weapon thing, Russia would be less likely to broadcast that, right? They just have some kind of internal thing, and if it went off, then it would go off. They wouldn't tell the world, this is our dead hand.
Yeah, I think that's far too extravagant a proposition. I think it would be very much hidden and not just like a thing you can tune into. But I'll definitely try it tonight with my my ham.
I'm sure that you keep up with so well.
Take down some notes.
God, Mr. P would be so ashamed of us.
Oh my god. Anyway, thank you for sharing that. That sounds like a pretty spooky radio station. If y'all want to go check it out, what's it called again,
It
Sunny?
is called the UVB 76, also known as the Buzzer. It's really interesting. And it is broadcast from Moscow. So, who knows what Russian minds are up to?
All right. So, let me tell you one of the things that I got. So this is pretty spooky. I don't know if you've heard about the hum. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the hum, also known as, well, as different things in different places. Like in New Mexico, for example, it's called Acetao's hum, which is also one of the bigger names that this thing has, and it comes from New Mexico because of a region where this happened or whatever. But like it's known as the hum worldwide, and it is literally what it sounds like, right? So there have been reports of a humming sound coming from the sky for decades now, and but the thing is that this hasn't been happening before that. It hasn't been happening for centuries. It's only been happening in the last number of decades, 4 or 5 decades. So it's not like, I feel like that actually makes it harder to explain as something that's like, oh, it's just a thing that's happened all the time. It's something geological, because then we would have records of that from all the time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. It's known as the Windsor hum in Canada, if that helps anybody. But anyway, so
So it's an
there's a
international thing.
manifestation. Oh, all over the world, all over the world. So there have been reports of this humbling, rumbling, droning noise
You sound
in
like
the
a Dr.
U.S.
Seuss book.
in the U.S., in the U.K., in New Zealand, in Canada is where most of these have come from. However, I wonder if we only think this because a lot of like reports that would come from like East Asia, for example, like we might not be getting them here, or like having them reported on our newspapers or whatever, or even like on our side of the internet, since there's so much censorship. Like, well, in China at least, just. But but as far as we know, like a lot of these hum reports, the majority of them come from these countries. Now, so what happens? So in 1973, a report mentions a university study of 50 cases of people complaining about a low throbbing background noise that others were unable to hear. And immediately you think, oh, like tinnitus. But
Yeah.
the sound always peaked between 30 and 40 hertz, and was found to only be heard during cool weather with a light breeze, and often early in the morning. And these noises were often confined to a 10-kilometer wide area. Here's the problem. If it's just tinnitus, if you travel outside of that 10-kilometer radius and then you don't hear it anymore, well, that's really fucking weird. Why, your tinnitus just went away just like that, just because you crossed a radius line? So it's not that.
Yeah.
That's one of the first kind of mentions of this. It was in a university study that took this upon themselves because they had people reporting this and complaining, so they were like, "Well, let's look into it." But then we jump into the 1990s in New Mexico, where there was an indication that at least 2% of people in the area could hear it. And you're like, okay, again, tinnitus. But each hearer apparently heard this thing at a different frequency, between 32 hertz and 80 hertz. For those who like don't know about hertz, which I barely know myself, don't worry, I'm not a genius. That's loud. Well, I should say it's high, is what I mean. Like, as in, you know how like dog whistles only work for dogs and like humans can't hear it? That's because they're at a very high hertz. And so, as far as I understand,
Yeah. So like really
don't
high.
don't cancel me
in,
for
like,
being
pitch
stupid.
slash tone. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So there were similar results found in a British study that same decade in the 90s, and just like in the first example in 1973, the example in the 90s in Taos Hum in New Mexico also found that the sound kind of had a range. In this case, it was a 30-mile range, and once you exited it, you didn't hear the sound anymore. So definitely not a medical condition, because what the fuck does distance have to do with that? There were approximately equal percentages of male and female hearers of this sound, and that's what we got. Like, it's literally it's so weird. So I mean, that's what we got as far as like like more researched examples of where this has happened, but like there's a million YouTube videos of individual people just like, you know, filming what they hear, and in some of the videos you can hear it, so like, you know, it's not just them and like their tinnitus or their brain or whatever, but like it's something's actually humming in the sky, and in others you can't. But like, as far as like, you know, university-wide or region-wide studies, there haven't been a lot of them, probably because people just, you know, think these people are crazy, which, like, not fair. Listen to people, dude. Maybe there's something here. Anyway, so there's a couple explanations for this. I'm not gonna like insert an audio for the hum because it's not gonna be nearly as impressive as like your thing. If you guys want to hear what the hum sounds like, there's again a million YouTube videos. Just look it up. They're pretty spooky. At least the ones that you can hear. People have theorized that this could be due to mechanical devices in nearby areas where these people live, that are hearing the sounds. But I have my thoughts on that. I think I'll get back to that later. People say that it could be tinnitus, which I already explained why I don't think it's that. There's also a theory that these could be spontaneous autoacoustic emissions. And what these are human ears apparently generate their own noises, which are called spontaneous autoacoustic emissions. And various studies have shown that 38 to 60% of adults with normal hearing have them, although the majority are unaware of these sounds. These people who do hear these sounds typically hear a faint hissing, like a cicada insect-like sound, a buzzing or ringing, especially if they are otherwise in complete silence. Researchers who looked at the Tao's hum considered autoacoustic emissions as a possibility. Now here's the thing, I have this. When there's complete silence, I get like a ringing noise. I hope that's not tinnitus. Fuck, I'm too young, but I don't think it is.
I think that's tinnitus, dude.
well then forget the autoacoustic emissions. But no, like, it doesn't happen all the time, and it only happens if the silence is truly complete and it is prolonged. And I don't know, it doesn't feel dangerous or medical. Like, trust me, it's not like that strong or that often, but I've definitely experienced that. And so it sounds like a tiny, like, high-pitched ring. I wouldn't describe it as a hum. So I don't know about these, but I don't think so. So people say it could also be a jet stream, which I think is a load of shit. Doesn't sound like a jet stream at all to me. And people also theorize that it could be a number of animals, which, like, I also don't think. I can get into the details if you want me to, but I didn't vibe with any of this. People were like, oh, it could be a type of fish. It could be a wasp nest. And I'm like, no, and no. You guys need to go watch these videos on your own, because it's really kind of an undescribable, broad, humming, strong sound coming from, like, all areas of the sky. At least that's what the sense you get when you're watching these videos that people record. Thoughts?
That is interesting. I think, well, the first thing is that it's tough to tell because we live, just like living the way we do requires a lot of sound. Like, someone starts a lawnmower, that's enough noise pollution for like a neighborhood. And then, you know what I mean? So I think when I was listening to a lot of the sounds that we talk about, it was hard to not say, how do I not know that this is just someone's chainsaw going off too loudly or something? But the other tough thing is that these reports reminded me a lot of the Havana syndrome, which we've actually talked about before. Do you know the thing with, like, so all the U.S. diplomats in Cuba and Canadian diplomats in Cuba that basically had traumatic brain injuries because of the sound that they heard, and they had to come back, and it caused really stressed diplomatic relations, actually, between the U.S. and Cuba and Canada and Cuba. And there is a lot of stipulation around there. Not stipulation. There's a lot of, what's the word? Not stipulation, but,
scandal? Like... Yeah,
scandal. Speculation. Speculation/scandal. No, totally. Around whether Cuba had crafted this weapon because they claimed that it was not at all their fault, or that they weren't trying to do that and they were down to investigate it. So basically that was the whole thing. And when they investigated that, actually, this is a really cool thing. This just came out in December of 2020, so this is a brand new update for listeners on this issue, which is that the December 2020 update is that it sounds like there was some kind of radioactive attack on those diplomats, and the result
Oh
was them
my.
hearing that sound. Yeah. So rather than the sound being an external attack on them, the idea is that they'd been attacked with some kind of specific like radioactivity wave, and that had caused them to spontaneously hear these sounds.
That's
Yeah,
worse. This is
which
way worse.
exactly, which was more of a symptom of the problems that they were experiencing than the cause. So that's the latest theory, December 2020, and that sounds similar to me to this because it's just hard to pinpoint. It's like, what is this sound doing? It doesn't seem to be causing any
Well,
harm, at least. So I don't know.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
I can tell you it sounds like a hum. Like, it sounds like God is humming up there. Like, that's
God really
literally.
be saying
Because
"fuck you."
I know, I know. He's just like humming in disapproval. He's like, mm-hmm. He's just. It sounds like a giant fucking hum, a human hum. He's like, It's crazy. It's so big and it's just coming straight from the sky. Like, I mean, I understand. I could just be totally off because how can I tell that it's coming from the sky in a video? Because video has stereo sound and it's a video. I am not there in person, but like the people like filming these, assuming they're not faking it, are like, oh my god, it's coming from the sky. And I would assume that these people are, I don't know, smart enough humans to like understand, like, I don't know, like sound location. Like, I mean, not even understand, like to just have it. I think you naturally know where a sound is coming from. And so, hello, what the fuck? That's the hum, girl. You
That's
go.
true. That's wild. Well, I'm glad we discussed. So, some more of a cool background for listeners is with a lot of these mysterious sounds, you hear about them being picked up in the ocean, like the Pacific Ocean or something, and you're like, why are these sounds being picked up in the Pacific Ocean? And here's why. There's the SOSUS, SOSUS, and that's the Sound Surveillance System, which is a passive sonar system developed by the US Navy specifically, and it was originally meant to track Soviet submarines in the 80s, right? Now Soviet submarines aren't as much an issue. There's Russian submarines, I guess. Cold War being mostly over. But now we still have this sound surveillance system that we use, and it picks up fucking crazy sounds. And that's where I think a decent amount of the sounds that both Andre and I come across have come from, is just picking up these random ass sounds in the Atlantic Ocean and being like, the Pacific Ocean, I should say, or the Atlantic, just saying what's going on with this. So another sound that actually is not from the SOSUS, so maybe I shouldn't have introduced that, but another sound that is not underwater, it is a sound very much from on Earth in Oregon, in Forest Grove, Oregon, is known as the Forest Grove sound. This is a famous sound. It first appeared in February of 2016 in Forest Grove, Oregon, and it sounds a little bit like a mixture of a giant flute, a mechanical scream, and a steam whistle. And after having listened to it, as someone who plays the flute, I can confirm it really do be sounding like a giant, off-tune, freaky flute. Like a flute that's kind of into BDSM. You know what I mean? And it has a really high tone. And the fire department originally thought maybe this is an issue with the sewer system, but they got over 200 calls from the city. So over 200 people who heard this noise and were bothered enough by it to call in, calling into the police to say, hey, there's something wrong here, but there was still no consensus as to what caused it. The police weren't able to come to some kind of conclusion about what it was. There was some speculation. Was it an attic fan? Was it some kind of heat pump? Again, something mechanical. Really interesting with a lot of these sounds that it comes down to like sort of human noise pollution. I'll talk more about this, but a friend of mine did a really cool project on dolphins and human noise pollution. But yeah, so there's no consensus about the cause of the Forest Grove sound. Just that the Forest Grove sound is really freaky. We'll play it, I'm sure. Maybe we can play it here. Or we'll play it somewhere earlier. But just a really weird sort of mechanical sound that you wouldn't expect in a small town in Oregon. And that's the tea, because it has not yet been discovered what exactly it is. I mean, I wonder whether it's just some kind of, again, like some kind of appliance gone wrong or something like that, because it's hard to know. But I mean, yeah, lots of speculation as to what it is.
So that actually reminds me of this creepypasta that I read a long time ago called Barranca, and it is yeah, I mean, long story short, you have some kids in the woods and they hear like basically the same thing, like a mechanical scream in the fucking like air. They're like, what the fuck is that? And a lot of shit happens. Eventually they find out that it's like some weird cult in the woods that is like kidnapping kids and like putting them in like a mystical wood chipper. I mean, it's fucked, but like
mystical wood chipper. Yes, please, daddy.
Basically. And they reminded me of that. It's pretty spooky because, like, you know, Oregon is very forestal, and so and to have this weird high mechanical sound just out of nowhere and kind of random moments. That's
yeah,
spooky.
It is true.
That's
you know,
spooky.
Kristen Stewart is shaking in her boots in Forks, Washington, which has a similar foresty feel. You know, there shouldn't be weird sounds there. There should just be vampires who watch you when you sleep. Yeah. And that's what we stick to.
And cryptids.
Oh, yes, true.
Okay, so thank you for that. Now,
so
I'm going to bring it up a notch. And, girl, we got the hum. But now, we got something else coming from the sky. We got skyquakes. You ever heard of a skyquake? You ever heard a skyquake?
You know, I've never heard a skyquake. I've heard of them now that we've done the research for the video, but I'm curious to hear what you found.
So, in the most general sense, a skyquake is a phenomenon where a loud cannon, a trumpet, or a sonic boom is reported to originate from the sky. And the sound can produce shockwaves that vibrate a building or a particular area. So it's the hum, but to the next level, because it's not just some weird thing that you could explain by like, oh, it's a machine far away. It sounds like trumpets. Now, I don't know about you, but I had never heard a wood chipper that sounds like a trumpet. So people that have heard this, and these skyquakes, these trumpet sounds are even, some of them are loud cannons, most of them are trumpets though. These are way more widespread than the hum. So these skyquakes have been heard in way more locations around the world. You got fucking like the east coast of the United States, the Finger Lakes, you got Colombia, Canada, Australia, Japan, Italy, fucking Mexico, Jakarta, like everywhere. And again, it's like a combination of trumpets and lightning. That's how the sound is usually described, which reportedly then kind of goes away as if it's moving away in like rows, which I'm guessing they just mean the ring of sound just gets fainter and fainter. So it is looking crazy. Every country that has described this, by the way, they all call it skyquake is just one term for it. People in the US also call it sky trumpets, and a lot of other countries around the world in their respective languages refer to it also as some version of sky trumpet. But the point is that the word trumpet is always in there, and so clearly everyone's convinced these skyquakes sound like trumpets. Just because these are more impressive than the hum, I still recommend you guys go watch videos of this, but at least you can hear these more clearly than a hum, and it's more impressive because it sounds like a trumpet.
Trumpet playing listeners, let us know. Does that sound like sky trumpets, totally. Or are people just bullshitting on their baseline shitty trumpet knowledge?
Yeah, or if you were just like in band in high school, you can also qualify to leave a comment.
Oh yeah, so, definitely. Like if you've played trumpet for even a moment in your life, you count for sure.
So it's insane. People are, by the way, I didn't say earlier, and I can't believe I haven't said this yet this far into the episode, but of course the hum is aliens. But now onto skyquakes. People are convinced that skyquakes are Jesus coming, basically, which, you know, would be very confusing because skyquakes happen all around the world, and they've happened many times. So, and obviously, it wasn't like a one-time event.
Since like forever. Like, sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but my mom believed in like what's it called? Not half moons, but John Hagee's
Heaven's
book.
Gate.
There was a book that John Hagee wrote on 9 blood moons. My mom believed in that. And it was basically the latest conspiracy theory, which these conspiracy theories have been going on since the 80s, y'all. Everyone's going to tell you that Jesus is coming, and I can tell you that if Jesus were going to come, he would come before Cardi B came, alright? He really would. And you know what? if he's going to come after Cardi B came, he's going to come significantly later because we've already reached a period of significant moral decay. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, God's going to let it roll for a while, is what I'm saying. And I'm speaking to this from a Christian perspective because I grew up hearing all about the Bible and whatnot. And I just, I mean, maybe he will come tomorrow. Maybe he'll come 2,000 years from now, but there's absolutely no use in trying to place a date on it, which lots of people try to do for very specific monetary reasons. And don't be taken in by that. Don't buy the Nine Blood Moons book, and don't buy that the hum is some kind of reason for someone to advertise to you that you should buy their book, okay? Jesus isn't coming at a predictable date. That's been recorded in Revelation plenty. This is so targeted now. Who knows if there's someone relevantly listening to this. But for God's sake, please don't believe in someone who can tell you that they think that they know when Jesus is going to come. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Shannon. That was very much her.
Wow, so proud. So proud to have channeled Shannon in that moment.
Oh my god. I can't believe this is only the first time you full on shed on Christianity. We're late to the game. I mean, hello, you've had enough episodes at this point.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I grew up very Christian, y'all, and I still love a lot of the values and community that comes out of it, but I still think a lot of the text is bullshit, for lack of better words. And if you want to fight me, feel free to fight me. Feel free to DM us and we can talk.
Listen, guys. I don't know if I'll feel ballsy enough to leave this in the edit later on, but I'll just say this now. I love Christmas, and I love a lot of Christian symbols and a lot of shit like that. But like, Jesus ain't coming. Just fucking
and the whole
all we have is each other.
Thing. Are you really gonna tell me and Andre right now that gays are canceled and like it's okay for you to eat shellfish, but it's not okay to put a dick inside an asshole? Because I'll go off on you.
We're thriving and we're skinny.
I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah, we're skinny. And that's our God. Thank you. Please respect that. Thank you. You can't see it, but I'm putting my hands together right now to say thank you for that. Respect our skinniness as God.
Our God is 5'7" and he's 140 pounds. You can deal with it or cry, okay? So...
Why is that the exact dimensions of my ex-boyfriend?
Oh my god. Oh, connections? Hello. No, so, listen. I just wanted to say, so, yeah, people are like, oh, it's the fucking trumpets of the carriage of God, and he's coming down, and it's like, I mean, no, but, like, even if you were to consider that for a moment, like, it's not a one-time event, like, this has happened at many times at different places, and so, obviously, not that, but, people are like, well, then it's a warning that he's coming, and it's like, okay, how much longer is he gonna warn? So, I definitely don't think it's that. I also don't think it's aliens just because, like, trumpets seem kind of silly, whereas a hum seems ominous. So I wonder if it is one of the hypotheses that normal people have, which is it's either a coronal mass ejection, so, like, basically a big sunstorm, a big solar wind, basically, letting out a shit ton of mass into space, and some of that reaches Earth, and it makes this weird sound because it bumps into our atmosphere or something like that. Or gas. There's just straight up gas, like either a lot of farts, which that's a joke, or gas escaping. Yeah, I know, gas escaping from like vents in the Earth's surface.
Farts, you mean?
Military aircraft. Yeah, basically, Earth Farts. That's the new name for the podcast, by the way. Starting episode 90, we're going to call Earth Farts.
Cute.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to say the views of Sunny do not necessarily align with the views of the Scary Talk podcast Ltd. because we stand WAP. Listen, Cardi B can be kind of problematic, but I at least stand WAP.
Oh, no, for sure. I actually stand Cardi B. Yeah. I follow her on Instagram. I think she's an icon, so... Yeah.
You said two things can be true at the same time. I can both think she's the Antichrist and a bastion from moral decay.
I think
and
that
also
she represents what Christians think is like the decline of all morality. But I think if you look a little closer, Cardi B is actually a pretty great bitch. So.
Can you believe that Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion's tongue are gonna cause the complete collapse of Western society?
Oh no!
I can't believe it.
Completely. I mean, unless Trump is elected like an 8th time. What options do we have left as a society? Because who else is going to tell us to grab people by the pussy and disrespect women in exactly the right way, where we pretend that we're respecting them at the same time? And that's on modern Christianity. So
since this podcast is already an absolute train wreck, I guess I might as well go into one other small segue, which was that oh my god. I totally forgot. Honestly, I'm going to cut this out. Forget it. Anyway, so those are some of the theories. I have no idea what sky trumpets could be, but I don't think it's anything ominous. I think
It's
these probably
angels,
can be
clearly.
explained by something normal. Yeah, obviously. So
I have another one I would have
there's
added, but we
that.
don't have time. So maybe another episode,
Yeah.
another day. But I think it's also cool because we've covered a lot of sounds already. We've talked about the bloop. We've talked about Havana syndrome. Like, sounds have
Yeah.
just kind of come up, and I think it's great that we've had this consolidated time to really discuss mysterious sounds. And thank you to the listeners for recommending that. Thank you in general for being. It still blows my mind that people listen to us because we're like, dumb bitches 87 incorporated.
Girl, they love us in Thailand, and we have like 2,000 listeners per
Okay,
episode.
literally
So
Thailand,
obviously,
we love you. So don't stop. But thank you. And you know what? Maybe I'll be drunk for our podcast episodes more often because this is fun. But maybe I'll listen to it and be like, wow, she's a wreck. So we'll decide. We'll decide later.
Yeah, definitely, of all episode topics, mysterious sounds was not at all what I thought would have a part 2, but we had such loose mouths in this episode that we barely covered anything. So, sorry everyone. I don't think this episode even deserves to be called Mysterious Sounds. It's gonna have to be something like Mysterious
It was like
Sounds.
the mysterious sounds
Sunny
of like
drunk
our
for an hour.
unexplainable conversations, realistically.
Yeah, there's gonna be mysterious sounds, but the mysterious sounds are gonna be and okay. So that's the episode. We hope you liked it. If you have any, oh my god, I ran out of saliva. If you have any topic suggestions for future episodes, please do let us know
please.
by DMing us at Talk Scary on Twitter and Instagram, and at Scary Talk on Facebook.
We love feedback. We read it. We love you all.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening.
Yeah. Absolutely. We read the shit you send us, and we appreciate you so much for listening. Remember, the sky is scary. Go vegan. Good night, all.
Mothman is real.
Bye-bye.
Good night.